Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Tunnel Vision. I'm your host, Ryan Abraham, publisher of USCFootball.com, and I am joined alongside Mr. Triple Double himself, Connor Morissette. Follow him on Twitter at @C_Morissette, where you can see the triple doubles of the letters of his name. And we have Chris Trevino, the cilantro boy. He is here. He's a helium boy, and he is dressed as, what are you, an armadillo? What are you dressed as?
Chicken hawk. I thought this was the Halloween episode, guys. So,
yeah. You look great.
So yeah. So that's where we're at. Thank you.
Tracy says, "Hi, amazing crew, Ryan, Chris, and Jack. No Jack today. We got me. I'm doing the hosting for Jack, who's still driving back from the Bay Area. But we got Connor, and we got me, and we got Chris here. And you guys got to see. Let's put the one shot on Chris
Please
here
don't.
because
there it is.
Looking so good. Yeah.
I'm only gonna do that one more time. So you pick when you want me to do it again.
We have Dale says Chris is Tony the Tiger from Frosted Flakes.
Due to SAG strike, no, I'm just a normal tiger.
Okay.
A normal run-of-the-mill tiger. Not Tony the Tiger, not Hobbs from Calvin and Hobbs.
Oh my God, that was my favorite.
Not, I think of another, someone quick, give me another tiger. The tiger from Aladdin. Is there a tiger in Aladdin? That sounds right.
Sure.
Yeah, let's go with that.
We look great.
You do look great.
I'm sorry we didn't. So we did Connor and I just did an interview with Eric Gentry for our House of Victory series that we've been doing interviews with the players with. They've been a lot of fun. We didn't really want to dress up for that, Chris. Plus, we all just got back from the Bay Area. So
basically, you take your job seriously is what you're saying, as what I'm hearing. But I'll be damned if I'll let the Halloween episode go without someone, at least one person dressing up.
Someone got to send us a screenshot when Keely was on, and she went as what's her peppercorn from what was it? What's her
Sandlot?
Yeah, what's her
Wendy
Peppercorn. Yeah, she dressed up as Wendy. That was a lot of fun. And we have a super chat.
Funny super chat
Thanks for the super chat, James. Can Chris roar?
for $9.99. You got to do it.
$9.99? You paid $10 for me to roar? What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? In this economy, you're paying $10 for a roar? Oh, my God. Okay, I guess. Roar.
Nice.
Wow, that was really good.
That's good. You know what? Do that one more time. I'm going to put the one shot on you. Do that. So just, can you do it again?
Roar.
Very nice. We have to have that clip because that's a really good clip. I love that one.
This is a very unserious show.
This is very serious show. So I'm running and not Jack. Haven't even done all so we are live on YouTube, which is great. And Facebook, hopefully, and also on Twitter over at USC Football Twitter account. So you can watch us live 3 different places, or you can watch the replays. We appreciate that. And we will be taking live calls this evening. And we haven't mentioned the game that we were all up there covering, but live calls 512-4-TUNNEL is the number. We love calls. We just want to keep them short. So we can't just hear you rant. We just want to hear your question. Tell us where you're from and all that stuff, and we'll move on. We'd love to hear from you. And if you have a question in the chat on either YouTube or Facebook, put big, bold question first, and I'll star it and come back to it later. And as we're talking, I'll try to I'll put some stuff up here. And and James gave us another super chat, $2 this time, $1.99. He says, "Yes, I did." So he did give. Now he gave $12 to hear you roar. We did it twice, so that's good. He got good value for his money.
Someone get him in touch with House of Victory. This man has money to burn.
Yeah. Speaking of, we just had a great interview, House of Victory. So go over our YouTube channel. It's up there now, and Connor just put the content item up on the front page of USCFootball.com. So go check it out. Eric is great. He was a lot of fun to talk to. Oh, Steve says Tiger from Tiger King. Remember Tiger King? That was maybe the greatest Netflix show of all time, just because it happened the whole world shuts down. You can't do anything but like watch TV, and like Tiger King was there, and just like everyone got on Tiger King. So
Tiger King made you feel safe in a time of uncertainty.
yeah. Yeah. So maybe you'll be on the Tiger King, which is great. But yeah, so go check out the House of Victory interview with Eric Gentry. He was a lot of fun. I had an awesome one with Jaylin Smith too on Thursday. That was the first in-person one we've done. So we both sat over at the University Village and chatted for a half hour or so. We had Eric Gentry for like 40 minutes. So that's a long one. So make sure you guys go check it out. He got in the dark there for a little bit, but then we got the lights going. That was great. Okay. So yeah, so you can call in if you want to call in. We're going to talk about this game. I don't know if you guys realized, but USC actually won the game. It was 50-49. Absolute insanity. 4 turnovers. Cal was doing pretty much whatever it wanted on offense, except when they turned the ball over. USC did get a couple of fourth down stops too. Very feast or famine. It was like big stop, turnover, or touchdown. Cal, Jay Knott, over 150 yards. He had a 61-yarder that was pretty special. USC gets some big defensive plays late, including Jaylin Smith, and I think I have a picture like batting away that 2-point
Great
conversion.
photo.
That is a great photo.
Shout
Thanks,
out to Alfredo.
Yeah, Alfredo, good one there. Yeah, big play there. I got some video of those plays we can kind of show you guys a little bit. Eric Gentry, who we just mentioned, had a nice one-handed interception there. That was pretty cool. But it was nuts. The fact that if you look at the numbers, Cal had 527 yards of offense. I mean, a lot of successful drives. The turnovers were 4-1. If USC doesn't get +3 on turnovers, they don't win this game. Just crazy to see USC kind of get out of there with a win. It starts off with a protest on the field. Halftime was the shortest halftime in the history of the world because they kicked a field goal or attempted a field goal right before the third quarter started because it was the last play of the second half, even though the band was already playing on the field, the Cal band, not the Stanford band, which that happened 41 years ago on the same field. It was just, this was an insane game. And I'm glad I went. I wasn't going to go. I'm glad I went. It's sort of like if you go to a game and you see like a unassisted triple play or so, some baseball game, like there's always some weird play. Oh, it didn't, or if you see a safety in a football game, there was some weird stuff that you're probably not going to see in many other games in this one. So I don't know where you guys want to start.
You dressed up, Chris. You get to go first.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, just a crazy game, a very bizarre game, a surreal game. And, my heart goes out to USC fans because 3 of the last 4 games have been like heart murmur-inducing games between the Arizona triple overtime, the craziness of the Utah game, and now this, a 50-49 win over Cal. To start off, we do have to acknowledge it's a win. It's a huge win. It's obviously not a satisfying win in terms of how USC fans wanted this to go because, as they would say, it's freaking Cal. You gave up 49 points to Cal, and you probably weren't going to get out of there unless you pulled out that incredible comeback. And credit to the players and the resiliency to fight to score, 21 in the fourth, make that comeback down 2 touchdowns going to the fourth. They made an incredible, run of it to walk out of Memorial Stadium with the win. So a lot of credit to them. But still, just everything we've been talking about this entire season between the defense and the tackling and the run defense and why is Eric Gentry not playing? Oh, Eric Gentry's playing, and he's a freaking superstar when he's playing. All these things we've kind of been talking about kind of rolled into one, and USC still finds a way. Again, it is Cal. It is not a satisfying win, I'm sure, for USC fans, but enjoy the win. Are you going to get a win over the next 3 weeks? I do not know. I still think you can beat Washington because you are at home. But other than that, it's going to be a wild 3 weeks. But credit to the team for finding a way to win on the road by 1 point.
It is one of those games where if you could go back in time and talk to your younger self and tell them USC was only going to beat Cal by 1 point way back when USC was number 5, you'd probably be like, okay, they won, but that's probably not enough points. And then if you could go back maybe a couple weeks ago talking to your younger self and say USC's going to beat Cal by 1 point, but Cal's going to turn the ball over 3 times inside their own territory and it'll lead to 3 touchdowns, you'd say, well, what the heck's going on here? And that's sort of my reaction after that game. Credit to the team for getting the win, like Chris said, but man, if you're a fan, I don't know how you don't have a bad taste in your mouth. And I've been accused of being too negative, but there were so many moments in that game where I was like just shocked at some of the things that Cal was able to do and some of the things USC wasn't able to do. The first Jaden not big run, okay, give up one big run, fine. The next series, pretty much, it's a longer touchdown run, and he has 100 yards in the first quarter. For whatever reason this year, the USC defense, it seems like they just keep allowing career days to guys who the year goes on and they don't play as well. Bryson Barnes, the quarterback at Utah, did nothing against Oregon after having a big game against USC. Win's a win, but man, oh man, if you're a fan of this team who expect a little bit more, I don't think you're very happy with it.
Yeah, I think the unsatisfying win has been sort of a staple in the USC cupboards for many a years. Not as, like last year, not as much, but I think this year for sure, getting some of these wins. And USC played 2 ranked teams and got blown out by one, and then lost in really disappointing fashion to the other one in Utah. And oh yeah, by the way, Utah just get absolutely curb stomped by Oregon at home for Utah. So not a good sign. But this Washington team does look beatable. I think you sort of know what USC is, and I want to get into that a little bit because the explosive plays have been a real issue. And I asked Jaylin Smith about it. I asked Eric Gentry about it. You can kind of see what their answers were on our different Tunnel Vision shows that we did with them. But I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. I think RJ Abadia put up the point that USC has given up 55 plays this season through 9 games of at least 20 yards. He said, for comparison, UCLA gave up 18 of those. There were 7 of them against Cal, 20-yard plays or more. And on the stat sheet, like the stat broadcast that we use, they kind of look at big plays, and they do it a little differently. Big plays passing, gains 15 yards or more. Cal had 7 of those. Rushes of 10 yards or more. Cal had 6 more of those. It's been a defense that has got some big stops, but is definitely giving up these big plays, and it's week after week. I think RJ said they were 130th out of 131 or something in big plays allowed, and it's not getting much better. I mean, Cal had a lot of drives, and they allowed 3 points per drive for Cal. I think the drive total in this game was crazy: 18 drives for SC, 16 drives for Cal. But over 3 points per drive is a lot to give up. 49 points total. That's the most Cal's ever scored in a loss, by the way. So, I mean, there's some historic stuff going on. But what do you guys make of these big plays? Because it's, Eric Gentry's like, well, each one of those big runs early on was just someone in the wrong gap. But I don't know. I mean, if one person screws up and does it always equal some huge play? Like, I'm not sure what to make of this.
It shouldn't. And all year, Ryan, it's been 10 guys instead of 11 guys, and one guy isn't doing what the coach wants him to do, and we're being coached up really well. But when you're allowing all these big plays, how well are you being coached up? That's my question after this game. I think the defensive coaching, you have to question it over the last couple of weeks. I mean, the Utah game, you need a stop at the end of the game to win. Doesn't happen. Against Cal, you need a stop at the end of the game to win. They stop a 2-point conversion, still allow a touchdown. The defense has not been good enough these past few weeks, and people just say, yeah, we're not doing what the coaches say, and that's why the big plays happen. By people, I mean the players on the team. Well, maybe the coaches have to change their tune a little bit if this is happening time and time again. I just at a loss for words after this Cal game. 49 points is too many for a Cal team that really doesn't have many receiving threats and just isn't that talented.
What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over with the same result, expecting different results. That's what it feels like when, I'm sure as a USC fan, watching the defense continue to do the same thing over and over and over. To stay on the Halloween theme, they're the ultimate trick-or-treat defense. You have no idea what they're going to give you. Either they're going to give up a 80-yard touchdown drive in 2 plays, or they're going to give it up over 14 plays and slow cut you to death, or they're going to get a random 4th-down stop, or they're going to get an incredible interception like the one Eric Gentry made. You have no idea what this defense is going to give you. Obviously, it's football. There is, it's up or down, up or down. But this defense is just so, you never know what you're going to get when they step out on the field. They're talented enough to take the ball away. They're talented enough to stop you, but they're also bad enough where they're going to just blow the game. And as you see, they almost did at the end of the game. They allowed that touchdown, to a great play by Jaylin Smith. They got pressure on Mendoza. He had to force it into a place he didn't really feel comfortable forcing it, and Jaylin Smith made the great play. But again, how many times have we seen where that result is different and in the end result? Or, maybe they got away with a little bit of a hold there, and maybe they get the flag and they move them closer, and then they just convert it that way. That would have been equally as painful and something we all would have expected to happen and would have been like, okay, that makes sense. Or they make the stop, which they did, so they get the win. So, but yeah, it's just the ultimate trick or treat defense. You never know what you're going to get. A nice Reese's or a rotten egg. I do not know.
Yeah.
And Ryan, just overall, what are my thoughts on it? It's not good enough, and something needs to change. I don't know what that something is, if it's the coaching, if it's playing different guys, but there's enough of a sample size now where it's a major, major problem, and it happens every week, it feels like, against these good teams.
Yeah, the chat's pretty. They have some suggestions. We got a lot of Fire Grinch things that's coming on. Lincoln Riley was asked about that or making staff changes, and all he said he's focused on Washington. I never thought he would make any sort of changes in the middle of the season. Maybe if they lost to Cal, if it was, 49-42 or something, then maybe that would have happened. But I'm not really thinking they're going to make any kind of changes during the season. But I mean, you can't really have the things the way they're going now and keep it going. Jim in the chat says Cal put up 40 points against Oregon State at Berkeley. Also, Oregon State put up 52. Yeah, like this is the thing that I sort of have an issue with, like the high water mark parts, Jim. Like when I was talking about Cal's offense before the game, I'm like, hey, against Washington, they had over 500 yards. It was like 502 yards. Against Oregon State, they put up 40 points, but they didn't put up 527 yards and score 49 points. Like that's, even with turning the ball over 4 times, like that's a lot of points. If you turn the ball over 4 times and you can still score that many, that's a problem. I mean, it's the most points that Cal's ever scored in program history when they lost the game. Jay Knott tied his career high with 3 touchdowns. I know he doesn't have a long career, but Fernando Mendoza, that was, career high for him for rushing and passing. Like everyone just seems to have like their best game. Cal went into the red zone 5 times and got 5 touchdowns. Like you can't do that. Like that's just not anywhere good enough. And Lincoln Riley talked about that there were all phases of the game that weren't working well, and sometimes the defense stepped up and saved. Yeah, they were, but I mean, the defense did make some really like quality stops and forced turnovers, but they just gave up so many points. I mean, you can't never stop a team in the red zone. 5 out of 5 against Cal, like that's not gonna cut it. And it's just kind of baffling to me to see how bad they can be, but then they make these good plays that you can say, well, see, we did this that was good. But it was just so much bad stuff that was happening, and special teams were crappy too. We could talk about that too, but it's just so hard to kind of like wrap your mind around almost every team they play, like outside of Notre Dame when they got blown out, because that was offensive turnovers. They're giving up this high water mark, the career high, the never been done before moment over and over and over again. And there's only so much of that you could take and be like, how does this keep happening?
And wouldn't you hope to be better than Oregon State? And instead they were worse. So that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I do think the offense doesn't help the defense a lot too. And sometimes the defense would get a turnover in a really good position and USC's offense would score really quick, kind of the best case scenario, but it would just happen so fast. The defense in an offense coached by Lincoln Riley is just going to have a lot of opportunities to make mistakes. And they made some nice plays like Chris and Ryan talked about. They had some turnovers. They made some key stops, forced some punts, but when the offense scores really fast or goes 3 and out quickly, the defense is going to be on the field for a long time. And the scheme, the feast or famine scheme, and just how everything's worked out so far this season, it's not a defense that's able to be out on the field for a long time and have success. Utah, they got the key stop, but then USC scores pretty quickly. USC has to get another stop defensively, and they can't do it. They might be able to get 1 stop, but they won't be able to get 2. So I don't really know what the fix is because, of course, you want to score, but all year long it's been the same theme, and I think it's a problem for Lincoln Riley his whole career. When you're so good on offense, sometimes it hurts your defense. I don't know how to change that, but we're seeing that again this year.
Yeah, they just seem to have no real kind of cohesion within both sides of the ball. Like the offense can have a really good drive and cut it to 7 points, and then you really need the defense to get a stop there, and then it all falls apart. And vice versa, they get a really good stop, they take away the ball, then you fumble it right back on back-to-back plays. It just stuff like that. Now they were able to get some of those things working for them in this game and those in certain opportunities, and they were able to, but it's just way too inconsistent. That's the whole thing we're talking about. It's way too inconsistent. This one was glaring, but it also worked to their advantage in some points. But again, just like we were saying, it just never feels like they're on the same page. There's never any real cohesion between both sides of the ball.
Wouldn't you rather have a defense that bend but doesn't break, or they drop like 8 every time? And yeah, they might run you for 10, 15 yards, but at least you're eating some clock. I just feel like the defense that Alex Grinch wants to have, where when it's a run play, we want it to be like blitz, and we want to force the other team to make mistakes, but that can leave us kind of vulnerable. Isn't that sort of the bad style when you have this offense? Shouldn't you want it to be a little bit of a longer time of possession, and if you get burned, it takes a while instead of these big explosive plays? I've always thought I think it's the defensive coordinator's fault a little bit for why they don't mesh really well. You know what you have with Riley, and it's tough to be a defensive coordinator with Lincoln Riley as your head coach. That's been well documented. I just don't think the feast or famine, the all or nothing sort of defensive scheme that Alex Grinch runs, is that the best partnership for a fast-paced offense that can score at will? I don't think it is.
Yeah, Eric Gentry talked, so you guys watched the interview. I mean, he talked about it was high risk, high reward, right? Like and I mentioned, like, it seems like you guys got some quality stops. Like if you just looked at the defensive highlights, like, wow, that was a great forced fumble, interception, fourth down stop. Like they had some high quality stops. But when they didn't get the high quality stuff, it was touchdowns, And he's like, yeah, I mean, he understood it too, but it was more about like the risk reward thing where it's a high risk defense. There's some complexities to it. And you're right. I think you have to consider, is this really what's best for this team, the way it's constructed? Because it just seems like, okay, one guy didn't do his run fit correctly, and it turns into a 61-yard touchdown. Like you have to have someone else kind of stepping up. They're like, okay, there's fail safes involved. There's backups. Back in the day, I was an engineer. We were designing computer chips for satellites. Like if something fails, you have to have like a backup up there because you can't go up and fix it in the satellite. You have backup plans, and it just seems like something fails and the whole play is dead, and you give up a touchdown, and you can't expect 18 to 22-year-old kids to just never make a mistake. Someone's got to be there to pick it up, and it just seems like that's the case over and over again. One person makes a mistake, and it's like death. It's just touchdown, and there's nothing else in between.
Speaking of highlights, quick plug, I did post the field level highlights from Saturday's game. So if you want to watch the game again from a new perspective, they're up on YouTube right now, and they're fun. I got some good stuff. So just a quick plug of the field level highlights.
Unlike the Notre Dame game where there just like was nothing, like there's great highlights in this for the defensive side too, right? Like
yeah, there were some good plays.
Yeah,
there was some energy. I got a great shot of the punt fumble that they caused. there was some good stuff. Eric Gentry featured a lot in this one, so yeah.
Great weekend for Eric Gentry, and I can't be the only one. Why the heck hasn't he been playing more? I thought at the beginning of the year when we did the most important Trojans, we had Mason Cobb really high and Eric Gentry really high. It seemed like everyone sort of thought, okay, those are going to be the pillars of the linebacking core, and whoever fills in behind them, maybe they can push for playing time, or maybe they'll just be reserves, but those are the two guys. And it took until this game for Gentry to really be one of the guys. He's had some other moments where he's had a good amount of snaps, but he started alongside Shane Lee and Mason Cobb, and he was in there with Gentry. I thought those two were the best linebackers, and I just don't know why that wasn't the combination from the get-go.
Was it the Arizona game where he played and he graded out really, really well, and then we did not see him for the Notre Dame game?
I think so.
He just disappeared.
Played 2 snaps against Notre Dame.
Played 2 snaps after grading out as the number 1 linebacker against Arizona, and then nothing. I don't know what he did against Utah, but he starts against California, and obviously you see the impact that 18 has, the angry giraffe with those 7-foot arms and just all over the place. He's knocking people down. he's getting his hands up. I think he had 2 batted passes. He tipped one that was almost picked off by Mason Cobb. He had an interception. He is helping in coverage on that side of the field on the 2-point conversion. Mendoza can't go to the tight end because he's being swallowed up by Eric Gentry, maybe a little bit of a hole, but he can't throw. He can't throw it to the easy tight end there. He's got to go over the top and make the difficult throw to the back of the end zone, which is a play Jaylin Smith can make. So he was all over the place, and this is the kind of impact player we thought he would be. That's why we put him so high on our most important Trojans.
Did you? So we were talking to him about. We asked him about the Angry Giraffe nickname. Did you give him that nickname?
I didn't give him that nickname.
Okay, we thought it might have been you.
We gave you credit.
No, not
Do you know where it came from?
I don't know where it came from, but it's not me.
He wasn't sure either. He liked it. If he said if his fans did, I don't mind it. I think it might have been Chris. It sounds like a Chris thing.
No, it does sound like a Chris thing, and I am dressed like a tiger, but I did not give him that nickname. I do not want to take credit for that.
Okay. We talked about the defense a lot. We did have a comment from Marquise. Man, hold the offense to the same standard because they had been pedestrian, or should I say trash as well. We thought they could score at will, but they can't. Again, they've had some bright spots. I really like the fact one of my 3 keys of the game was, and I don't even know how I pulled this number out of my butt, like 25 carries for running backs. I think Jack or RJ or someone might have suggested that, which I don't think have been close to that this year. And they got 26. Now, it was pretty slow going early on. Marshawn Lloyd ended up getting a couple of bigger carries later that really helped his average. He got over 100 yards, but they were dedicated to running the ball, similar to what they were doing against Notre Dame, where they didn't have the success. They had, not great success, but they kept running the ball against Cal. And then they eventually broke through and had some big runs, a couple touchdowns for Lloyd, touchdown for Austin Jones. They did run the ball, and I thought that was good. But it was, they had 4 3-and-outs, I think. We just never saw this team get like that kind of the amount of 3-and-outs that they're getting right now. But, yeah, I mean, we got to talk about the offense too because, they scored 50, but it was helped by 4 turnovers from Cal in this one.
Yeah, I think 20 points off turnovers. So, yeah, they got a lot of help with short field and stuff. And, yeah, they haven't looked right in several weeks. They just seemed very, I don't know what the word is, like.
Out of sync.
Out of sync. It feels like it takes a lot of effort. We've seen this offense where it looks effortlessly, where they're just moving at will. And it's not like that. It's like almost like pulling teeth sometimes. And it's just, I don't know what it is. I'm not an offensive genius like Lincoln Riley. I cannot tell like what exactly, it probably goes down to the offensive line, wide receivers being out of sync. The wide receivers outside of, Taj Washington really has had 2 really good games back to back, but just hasn't had someone consistently to step up alongside Taj. I know Brendan Rice scored a touchdown. I know Kyron Hudson scored that really nice catch over the shoulder, but it's just like outside of him, they haven't had really anyone be as consistent as Taj.
I think the tape is out on him a little bit, and there's been an established blueprint, not how to stop them, but how to slow them down, and I think a lot of people are doing that, and USC, they're adjusting, but it's taking them a little bit to punch back because they were so good last year, and Lincoln Riley has been so good doing this kind of offense for so long. Now Caleb Williams, he's back for his 2nd season at USC, 3rd in college. There's just a lot of film on him, and he might be a little banged up. Offensive line isn't very good, so there's a bunch of reasons. But at the end of the day, 50 points, even though it wasn't perfect, 50 points is really, really good. Against Utah, 32 points. That should be enough to beat Utah. The Notre Dame game, the offense was terrible. Arizona, they had some issues starting down 17-0, but eventually getting to 43 points in the double overtimes. I just think the problems are on defense, and they're so much worse than they are on offense. Of course, there are issues on offense, and we don't want to just forget about them, and people in the chat are right to bring them up. But man, oh man, the defense, I think that's what leads me every week to just kind of scratch my head, like what is going on here? And if the defense was better, I think the team would be a hell of a lot better.
I think they press sometimes as well, just because they feel the pressure of a defense that I think I called it a pressure cycle when I tweeted it out. It's just the defense isn't playing well, so then the offense feels like, the weight is on our shoulders to move the ball and score every time, because if we don't, we're going to lose and we're going to go down. And that's what happens. So then you press more, and the defense gets more anxious, and then it just this whole thing. So I think a little bit also is just feeling the pressure to score, and obviously that manifests itself in mistakes and not executing and things like that.
And Lincoln Riley's talked so much about we kind of haven't had fun winning. And that makes me, what you just said, Chris, think of that. Like Caleb Williams, it's fun when they're scoring, but when they're not scoring, he gets frustrated. And the whole team, it's sort of frustrating and not fun is the vibe that I get from the team a lot. And I don't really know how that changes unless the defense plays better, because you can afford to punt or make a mistake if the other side of the ball is bailing you up. But when you have to be perfect and you're not perfect, that's, of course, not very fun.
Kristen on Facebook in the chat says, pass plays are not set up by the run game. No outlet receivers against the rush.
I thought you were reading a question from my real girlfriend.
Oh.
And I was very confused for a second.
Different. I don't think this is your girlfriend on
yes,
Facebook.
Yes. Let's assume
Maybe.
that.
It was not. I did have dinner with her last night, so.
That was a factual statement. That's not a burn. It's not a burn. I was also
Chris was there.
I
Chris
was
was
also
there,
there. So let's everyone settle down. Everyone settle down and get back to answering this Kristen's question about the pass not setting up the run. Is that what it was?
Yeah, but I thought that they did a better job of it in this game, just being able to establish the run, and I think it opened up some things. There was some good play action, which I think Caleb was really good at the play action. I don't think they've been very good at the screen game, which is, that's kind of concerning. But even when they weren't having success with the run, they kept trying to run the ball. They were handing the ball off to running backs, and then they had some play action pass stuff that worked. I think it really helped having the run game, but that's not been the MO of this team most of the games.
They definitely trusted the run game a little bit more than we've seen in the past several weeks. And to your point, look how well the pass was set up by Cal's rushing attack. They were murdering them in the first quarter, and they were getting whatever they wanted in the pass game. That's how it works in a cohesive manner. So that I think Ryan pointed that out during the game. Like, look how Cal's run game is affecting their pass game. They're so wide open, and they're making plays down all in the first half.
Play action is really important, and I think Lincoln Riley learned a lesson from the Utah game, how important it is to run the ball, and I'm sure he knew it. And he's not learning anything new, but I think if he could go back in time, he probably would have run the ball a little bit more against Utah, and you saw that against Cal.
Yeah. We had a couple super chats again. Thank you very much. This one's from Matt, and here I think with a little transitive property stuff going on.
Okay.
Stanford played well versus Washington. Number 24,000 versus number 5. Yeah, Stanford's pretty bad. You can play the transitive property.
They've gotten better. They're not very good, but they've definitely gotten better.
Yeah. I mean, they played better in the second half against USC, but remember, USC destroyed Stanford, and they should have probably beat Washington. They were really close against Arizona, who's very good. They played some way better games after USC just curb stomped them. But, more recent history, USC loses to Utah, and then they get curb stomped by Oregon. So, I mean, you can play like the game, but USC played a really good first half against Stanford, and they've played pretty well since a lot of different places. But thank you for that one, Matt.
Ryan and I watched that fourth down call or play in the Stanford game where he just dropped it.
Oh, my God, yeah. It was, they fourth and 2. They ran a trick play. And it's like, you're gonna have like some receiver throw the ball, and it was there.
But it worked, is what I'm saying. He just dropped
it didn't
the
work.
ball.
It should have worked.
In paper, it worked. He was wide open. He just dropped the easiest pass of his life.
I have seen a lot of people say Washington's beatable, and
I just said it. Yeah,
they are. But I mean
those
receivers are nasty. Who's going to stop them on defense?
Well,
their receivers are amazing.
They didn't score an offensive touchdown against Arizona State. Penix didn't throw a touchdown against Arizona on the road.
What's going to happen against USC?
But we've seen them they're not like, so that's the problem is when USC's bad, everyone's a world beater. Like everyone's just going to kill USC. I'm like, USC has a chance without all these teams, but the way they're playing, it's not great, But Washington's been, playing with their food for the last few weeks, so it's not like
they've looked human.
Very human. And USC can do that. USC could get blown out. They could play well. James had a super chat. Caleb seems frustrated early and often. Are there locker room issues?
I don't think there's locker room issues. I just think obviously the season isn't going based on what the expectations were for the year. They're 7-2. They're out of the college football playoff. That was kind of the main goal for this team is to make a run. Obviously Caleb last year on this famous Heisman speech, I'm up here, but you guys get to play in the college football play. That's where he wanted to be, and he's not going to be there. And so I'm not saying there's locker room issues. I just think that the expectations and the mood has changed with that locker room because they know they're not going to the big dance, if you will. They still have hope for a Pac-12 championship, obviously, but they have to realign their expectations of what this season was supposed to be, which can be hard. Obviously you go in thinking one thing, and then reality hits you in the face, and you don't get that opportunity anymore, and especially for Caleb trying to make one final run at USC.
Frustration is definitely the biggest part of it, but also he's just so under the microscope, and I feel like everything he does is scrutinized, and people have opinions about every little thing he does, from his nails to his performances to just him maybe rolling his eyes every now and then. And I don't know, in fact, if that has anything to do with it, but how can that not, when you're just so under the microscope and everything you do, people talk about every little detail? That's got to be kind of tiring, and I'm sure he gets frustrated by that too.
Could you imagine, some random fan running up on you after you had a bad instant and trying to get a selfie with you?
Good for him for showing restraint.
How's that instant, bro?
Yeah.
What did you make of so Caleb Williams? This was really weird. After the game, we only got Lincoln Riley. We only got him for 3 questions to start. I got to get the first one in, and he gave me a really long answer about the whole.
He's figured out
halftime
how to do these press conferences, long-winded ansers, and that way I won't have to face
It's
many
the
questions.
Grinch. It's the Grinch method.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
They're even shorter with
only
Grinch.
3 questions, which was a little frustrating. But I mean, I get it. He's coming. He was sick. Like maybe you don't keep him out that long. And you want to someone asked him like how he's feeling. He's like, thanks for asking. I was like, wait, we would have, but we just not going to get much time with you, so we have to really ask questions about this team. Then they brought out all the players like in a huge group. They were all standing up and we're all sitting down. And Eric Gentry's like, hey, we're the players. Why are we standing up? I'm like, I don't know. They set this up. We'd much rather you sit down around the room and we could talk to you individually. But Caleb
Yell
Williams,
at your SID. It's not us.
Yeah, we did set this up. So we got players, but it was just all at once instead of being able to ask. So it's tough. You get a couple questions for each guy. Caleb Williams' answer, former student of Chris, by the way, coach, whatever. It was kind of defensive almost. Like he was defending himself about, I had 70% completions and blah, blah. There was a bunch of stuff. I'm like, you don't need to defend yourself. Like, you're the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. It's like, you're good. Everyone knows. But I think there's questions about his pinky or whatever. And but that was a little weird to me because, Lincoln Riley's kind of acted embattled a little bit this year, even when they were undefeated. And that kind of gave me like a feeling of embattlement for Caleb Williams too, like needing to defend, his track record, which I don't think he needs to do. But any kind of thoughts on that? His answer there.
Because I'm going out a little bit. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
It's because he's hearing the noise, I think. And imagine if everyone for a whole year says you're going to be the number 1 pick. You're going to be the number 1 pick. You hit some adversity, and now it's like, oh, is he going to be the number 1 pick? Like, I'd defend myself too, and I think that certainly is part of it because now Notre Dame, that was 3 games ago, and he's still saying I've only had 1 bad game in college. I don't know if that's the best thing for him to be saying, but he is saying it, and he just keeps doubling down on that. I've only had 1 bad game. I've only had 1 bad game. I think the stuff is in his head a little bit, and I don't think he needs to be like, that's not a bad thing. It's so hard to deal with all that stuff.
Yeah, I can't imagine the pressure of someone under that microscope and, in a sport like college football where it's like all on you and the quarterback. Like Ryan, what did Matt Lionheart have to deal with if he had a bad game? It's like a couple of newspaper articles. Now, if you have a bad game, you have to deal with
you
blogs,
suck, you stink, Twitter,
TikTok, memes about you.
Guys running on the field.
You're trending on social media after like 1 bad play. They're making fun of you for your nails. They're just all these things coming at you. It's really, I know they can say they can tune it all out or whatever, but there's just so much. It's hard you can't tune out everything. You just can't unless you get rid of your phone and don't have internet access. You know
what Eric Gentry said, Chris? He deletes Twitter like for the game weekend and then puts it back on, so he doesn't hear any of the stuff on social media.
That's a good strategy. It explains why sometimes I can't find his Twitter.
Yeah,
I'll look for him and he's not there. So
he deletes it.
A good strategy, but still, even if you do that, there's still other things. Does he delete TikTok? Is he on TikTok?
I don't know.
Does he have Instagram? I don't know. There's so many things that where they can get you and seep in your head and, just kind of throw you off your game.
Matt Leinart, so he kind of transcended the sport too, because I remember, I've told the story before, it's probably 2005. So, he's dating like one of the girls from the Hills or something like that. Like Kristen Cavallari, I don't know, something like whatever. He's like like this woman comes all dressed up from People magazine, comes to practice, and she's like, "Is Matt Leinart here?" Like she had no idea what anything was going on. Like that was a whole different world. Like college football was never that big, and like him and Reggie sort of became this big thing. Caleb Williams and now with NIL, people are taking it to another level. Like I was at the Laker game the other night. He was, sitting courtside and gets dapped up by Kevin Durant and is sitting next to the Suns owner. He's on all these national TV commercials. Like there's a lot. I mean, you get a lot more benefits too, but there's going to be the more of that, the more pressure, the more rumors about him wanting to own a damn NFL team and stuff, like stupid stuff like that. Because as a college athlete now, you can be like a professional. And that just wasn't the case for most of the whole history of college football.
Noise is I don't know what's going on here.
Here, let me unplug you for a second. Yeah. Go ahead.
He was saying the noise. There we go.
But not from me.
There you go.
Yeah, sorry.
It's just the noise is just so much more intense and louder, and I don't envy him being in that position. I, of course, would love to be a guy who makes a lot of money playing a sport. That sounds amazing, but all the other stuff that comes with it, that is really hard to deal with.
Yeah. We had a super chat from Matt
Leinart?
Matt Leinart?
It wasn't Matt Leinart, no. It's funny. He tweeted something like a get your popcorn, or he was like a popcorn meme or something. And everyone on the boards was just like,
what does this mean?
What does this mean? And I like,
Matt?
I asked him and he said it was something to do with like Brady Quinn. It wasn't anything to do with him. So the USC fans were like, wah, wah. That's always the case. Like on the message boards, we love them. The people are like, there's always like conspiracy theories. There's always something crazy going on. And when you come in with like, when they're like, oh, I think this means this, or that means they're going to get this recruit because they said this. And then you go on and you're like, no, I asked them and it's not that, it's this. And they're just like, they much rather would have the hope that it's like this crazy thing, like instead of like you telling them, no, here's what the facts are. And that's not it's a fun theory, but that's not true.
You can never be vague on Twitter. I could go right now, tweet like a Christmas tree, an eyeball emoji, and then just walk away and I would destroy you. I would watch the world burn. I'll do it.
Matt says, how about the protest delays to start the game for 15 minutes? It was only 7 minutes. We talked to Eric about that too, and he had mentioned to the security guards, like, aren't you guys going to do your job or something? And I saw Cooper Lovelace talking to a security guard. I couldn't read his lips from where I was, but I'm like, he is definitely telling them to go move those guys. You were on the field, Chris. What was that like?
Bizarre. I still want to know how they got on the field. Like, where did they come from?
It was like after the coin flip,
They just
right?
did the coin flip, and then
They
I was
bought
like,
tickets and just ran on. No one stopped them.
is that what happened?
Yeah.
Okay, I did not see that because I was like getting ready, my camera ready, and then I look up and it's like, okay, why are these people sitting? Then I saw all the photographers rushing to field. I was like, oh, this is Cal Berkeley. This is a protest. It's my first Cal Berkeley protest. So I ran over there and started getting some photos of what was going on. I didn't know what it was. Apparently it was for a professor. They were protesting the suspension or firing of a professor.
Suspended for stalking a student. So.
No, another professor.
Oh, I thought it was a student.
It was a fellow professor. Yeah, so someone
Fake news by me.
That's okay. Yeah, no, because I tweeted, I was binoculars. I'm like, it said justice for, and I couldn't read, and I think it was Yvonne.
Yeah.
And then someone replied to my tweet, it's justice for Yvonne, and they sent me the article, and it doesn't look good. The article was not very flattering for the professor because she keyed like this other professor's car, like threatened the other professor's like mom. There was a lot of stuff that she
keyed the mom?
She keyed the mom and threatened the car. No, there was a lot of stuff, and she admitted to the stuff, but then said she needed like help. And it was like, if you just read the article, you're like, okay, this is not, it said sexually harassing a student, but I think it was a professor. The article I read it was a fellow professor.
Maybe it was on top of that. Maybe
if it was a student, it's even worse. But I thought the article I read was for a professor. Maybe there was something else there too, but it wasn't anything like national news. It was or international news. This was
It seemed like something very small to protest.
right.
I thought it was going to be something bigger, like housing or, what's going on in the Middle East. But no, it's a professor that keyed someone's car.
And it was, the article I'm looking at was against a professor here. We don't have to spend a ton of time on this.
No.
Let's spend 20 minutes on this. Take a call about this specifically.
We could, we should take a call though, because we got our friend
Dave from Iowa.
He's on
I know
there.
it.
Let's pull him up. Mr. David from the great state of Iowa. You're on Tunnel Vision. How you doing, man?
Hey guys, what's up? So Ryan, you called Cal terrible last week. So since USC beat them by 1 point, what does that make USC? And another question, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but all these defensive-minded head coaches really know how to handle the defense, and then the offense is pretty good. Why is it kind of the opposite for Lincoln Riley and USC?
Thanks, Dave, for the question. Did we get that? Okay. Cool. Thank you for that. Okay, so here's Cal's record. 1-4 in conference, 3-5 overall. They beat North Texas. They lost to Auburn. They beat Idaho. And they beat Arizona State by 3. But they lost all the other ones. They don't, Idaho's not good. North Texas not good. This is not a very good team. I told you they have a good offense, and they have a pretty bad defense. And that's sort of where you are. But, yeah, USC beat them by 1, but that's transitive. We're not doing transitive property stuff around here.
To the second part of the call, Dan Weber wrote this great story. I guess if you go back through the last 25 college football national champions, all but 4 of them had defensive-minded head coaches. It is pretty hard to win at the highest level with an offensive-minded guy. It's even harder to win with an offensive-minded guy who calls the plays. I think the last one to do that is Jimbo Fisher at Florida State. It does not happen very often where a head coach who calls the offensive plays wins a national title. I think it's certainly fair to talk about that, and it's a great question by Dave right there. Why, if the offense is so good or the defense is bad for a lot of these teams, look at a Lane Kiffin coach team where some of the defenses aren't very good, but his offenses are usually pretty good. I don't have an answer for that, but it's certainly a good question, and it makes you kind of wonder, would USC be better off with a defensive-minded coach? Maybe. I can't believe I just went that far. I believe in Riley, and I think he's going to do a nice job in the long run. But, I mean, the track record and the history is the history. Defensive guys have more success at the highest level.
Oscar says Chip has an elite defense. They do have a really good defense.
Yeah, they have a damn good first-year coordinator who they kind of got lucky on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't really know why that is. Maybe it's just this mentality of like, I'm going to outscore. I'm going to outscore you. It doesn't matter. I could just put in whatever defense I want, and it doesn't matter because I'm going to put up 55, 60 points every time. And if you score 40 or 30, doesn't matter because I scored more than you. Maybe that's the mentality. I don't know.
I think it is, but is that a recipe for winning at the highest level? I think pretty clearly that's a no.
But no one will admit that.
Yeah.
No one will admit
Here, this is coming up a lot, and I need to get you guys' thoughts on this. Paul says, then why the heck did Mike Bones spend $110 million for Riley? Okay, first, we don't know how much he spent.
And his record is impeccable.
Right. Because his resume is top 5 in the country as far as coaches go. So USC was in the shitter, and then you go get a top 5 coach who has a very impressive resume at a very young age.
He wins 83% of his games. That is so good.
Yes. And the money thing needs to stop because you don't know how much he makes. There's no public, no one's reported officially what they put people through some numbers out there. It's probably in the 10 million a year range. It's not your money. Who cares? Like, that's the going rate for a great coach. That's just what it is. You have to pay something like that to get a really good coach. And you pulled a really good coach from a blue blood program. And that hadn't happened in 30 years. So I don't want to hear any more about he makes too much money. He's not paid enough for what he brings to the table. Just winning the Heisman Trophy is worth how much for USC? So it's not your money. Who gives a crap how much money he's making? But you're paying him that money because he's got an amazing resume for a 40-year-old coach. Yeah, the aspirations are to win national championships, but you had to crawl up out of the – I mean, you dug yourself such a deep hole. You were in the abyss with all the Clay Helton years. and you climb out of it in year one and win 11 games. Now they got a lot of work to do to kind of get back to that, and that's a little frustrating to not go from a step down from year one to year two. But you hired that guy because he's got a great resume, and that's why.
Is no one going to compliment Dave from Iowa for keeping it quick?
He's done an excellent job lately.
Nice job, Dave.
He's taking the coaching, is what you're saying?
And the last thing on Lincoln Riley, he just raises your floor so high, winning double-digit games every year, not losing to teams, even though they almost did to Cal, who you shouldn't lose against. Their only losses have been against ranked teams. People get mad at the bowl game last year. I get it, but at least Tulane was ranked. He just raised your floor so much. The people are so upset about the untrained eye comment and the defense being bad. What you have to hope for is that, as a lot of good coaches do, he adapts going forward. And you might not be able to see it right now because the defense hasn't been good, and Riley says a lot of very similar things after a lot of these games. But I believe that he will see something based on this season that warrants change. He has to make some changes to what he's doing because even his track record's good, but he hasn't had success at the highest level, and I think he's going to change.
I wish you luck. I wish you luck.
Beck says Saban won a natty in 2 years. Okay. One, he's the greatest coach in the history of college football. So you want to compare Lincoln Riley to him. Two, he won it in 2 years at Alabama after already coaching at Michigan State and LSU, where he won a championship. So, I mean, that's apples and oranges for sure. And you're also comparing him to the greatest of all time. So if you're going to say, oh, I really like the Miami Dolphins coach. What's the nerdy guy's looking name? What's his name again? It's like
Mike McDaniel.
Yeah, I'm going to compare him to Bill Belichick, who, got fired early on in his career and then, rattled off 6 Super Bowls or whatever it was. That's who you're comparing him to, and you're just like, after he's been at a couple blue bloods already, and then he goes to Alabama and goes on this most amazing run. He's done more at 40 years old than Nick Saban has at 40 years old. If you want to do that comparison, how's that?
How do you like that?
How do you like dem apples?
How do you like them oranges?
Do you not think he's going to change, Chris?
I won't pretend to know inside the mind of a high level coach who has their own ego. I mean, at that level, you have to have this ego where, to a certain extent, you have to be steadfast and believe in what you're doing, go on that path. You can't second guess yourself. I know it's hard to accept if something's not working. I mean, do I think at the end of the year that they're going to make a change? I would say it's 60-40% right now. 60-40% because I think they're going to get slaughtered in Eugene.
Yeah.
I think that because if Oregon puts up 70 points, if they put up
Chris
points.
Well, Dan Lanning is going to not take his foot off the gas.
He is not.
If it comes
he is
to
not.
that.
He is not putting on kid gloves
No.
for that game. He is going to do whatever he can to Mortal Kombat finish USC in that stadium in Autzen. He's going to do whatever he can. I don't care if that defense is giving up play after play. He's going to keep going so they go play after play after play. And he is going to do his best to embarrass USC. And if that happens, you have to figure it's going to shatter this disillusion that your Alex Grinch is the person. Something has to, the breaking point has to be reached. Have we reached the breaking point yet? I don't know. I think we're close, but I don't think it's been reached yet. And I think it's going to take something like that. Not that I'm saying I want USC to get slaughtered in Autzen, but you have to see what's coming. You have to see what's on the horizon. Look what they did to Utah, a team that, beat USC at home.
I mean, I would make sure you read Chris's ghost notes after the game, because you see the stuff on Twitter, right? I mean, we're in the chat, fire Grinch, blah, blah, all the stuff, right? Happens on our message boards. I mean, there are literally people yelling it to the players, to the coaches. It's not like they don't hear it. They know that people want this to happen.
I was going to say, there was a guy, not hammered, but he was, aggressively violent about the fact that if he got on the field, he was going to, attack Grinch, it felt like. That's a USC fan.
That's not good.
That's how angry he was. Again, he was drunk. Probably wouldn't have done anything. Probably would have got in his face like a drunk guy would. But there's actual like pure anger and hatred from USC fans that I see in the stands, yelling things down at these coaches. So like I hear it all. Like I understand you're mad and you're angry, but above all, remember these are human beings. And I wrote about this after the Tulane game. You thought, okay, that's it. That's the last straw. You're going to see a change. And I know everyone was.
You thought there was going to be a change after Tulane?
Yeah, I did. I did think for a glimpse there was, and then Riley kind of shut that down in the presser. But I remember how like that was like the bottom falling out. That Tulane, that drive, that end, that collapse, all of it on the defense. And then I remember standing in the tunnel, and Alex Grinch was there, and then his family came over. And you remember, oh, he's not just this person that everyone wants to like sacrifice, but like he's a dad, he's a husband, his wife came over, his kids, everyone was sad. You remember when the game is over that they're, a human being, there's a person under that. And I know, it's college football. He says it all the time. That's the nature of the game. You feel the pressure. You take the results with it. So I don't know what I'm really saying. The point is I'm just saying like there's so much hatred right now that I see. But above all, just remember it is a game. This is, you never want to see anyone fired or never want to call for someone's job. But just remember at the end of the day, it is just a game. There's bigger things going on. I know you're a fan, but just try to keep that perspective is all I'm saying.
Public service message.
From a guy dressed like a tiger.
Exactly. But I would say they know it. And Lincoln Riley is not going to, when he was asked about it after the game, about making staff changes or anything, he's like, I'm focused on beating Washington. Like, that's where their focus is. My honest opinion is that he's going to change after the season. I really feel like that's the most likely thing. The fact that he's not throwing anybody under the bus right now or making changes now, I know people are like, well, that means he's never going to make a change. I don't think so. I think he knows the temperature of what's going on around him. And it's hard. It's definitely difficult. He made a decision to bring everybody back, and it wasn't a popular decision. And, sometimes that works out and sometimes it doesn't. This one has not worked out. They're bad. And I guess it kind of leads to the question here from Kevin from YouTube. Is it fair to say the defense is worse than the 2022 team? I don't think it's worse because I think they do better stuff, but they're still giving up a lot of huge plays. It's getting there, but I still think 2022 was worse. What do you guys think?
Better, but not close to being better enough.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Shotgun and I were asked kind of a similar question on Helium Boys podcast. Who would win, last year's team or this year's team in a head-to-head matchup?
Last year's team would win.
Yeah, last year's team would win.
But it's just like a better team.
Yeah, it's a better team, and they have the better defensive player in Tulitu Pelotu. And that, I think, is like the difference. They have a better offensive line.
I think the 2023 team's more talented.
Yes.
But the 2022 team was better. And that's hard for fans to understand, too, because...
That's hard for me to understand.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I mean...
That shouldn't be what I mean?
Every offseason when people are talking about and it's harder to project now because of the transfer portal, but you're like, how many players are coming back? And sometimes you lose the whole offensive line that was terrible and you're better with a bunch of freshmen playing the next year. Like, it's, the team, it's going to be greater. The whole is going to be greater than the sum of its parts. But we look at the parts. You're like, okay, well, they got these good linebackers and they got, okay, these good safeties and this good rush end. And you can look at a collection of talent. If you're playing a video game, that's fine. But this isn't a video game. You have to get all these guys to play together. There's a lot that goes into this. So I feel like 2023, more talented USC team. 2022, it's a better team. And there's just a lot that goes into making a good team than just if you were putting, a Madden grade on every player, it's going to be a higher group than last year. But it didn't make the team. But you can't really simulate it in the video game. That's a better team. You got better players, you're going to have a better team. In real life, though, I don't think that's the case.
And that's what makes fans so frustrated, I think. They feel, and I feel the same way, that the team should be better. And for whatever reason, it does look like in a few areas they have taken small steps back. And defensively, maybe they have taken a small step forward, but you needed to take a big step forward.
Yeah.
Don't count out, back to the original topic of like, will they make a change? Don't count out the scapegoat theory where you fire
Yeah.
multiple coaches and not the actual DC,
Well,
like Helton did in 2018, where he kept Clancy and everyone thought Clancy was going to get fired, but they just fired like a bunch of people under him.
Yeah.
If Grinch comes back though, after what's happened these last 2 weeks, I guess if USC wins the Pac-12 championship, okay, I get it. But if things continue this way, I just feel like forget it. Forget what happens in the future. The damage, the nail should be in the coffin based off of Utah in last week. Those are two performances where it's like, okay, there's been enough time. The new players have come in. What do you got? And you have a loss to Utah and a last-second field goal where you couldn't get a stop, and a Cal game where you got off the field at the very end, but 49 points, and Cal had a chance to win despite making a lot of mistakes on offense too. I don't know. I just, if I was a fan, I'd be like, okay, why am I going to invest my time when I know what's going to happen? Because there's been so much evidence that it hasn't been good enough. It's not going to change. Something needs to change, I think. So we'll see.
Speaking
Man,
of,
I wish you luck, man.
Thanks.
Dave says national media, I don't know who that person is, has USC losing final 3 to finish 7-5. Do you agree?
I don't think they lose final 3.
Yeah, I don't think.
Jack and I said 2-2 on Thursday.
Yeah,
so
I think they win at
right
least
now.
one of the next 3. I think they have a shot of beating Washington for sure. We've seen them be vulnerable. But there's not a consensus that the national media is all thinking USC is going to be 7-5. But a bunch of people do. And, for good reason. They just haven't played very well. So let's go to Bobby. Bobby Q. Bobby Q. I like the play on words there. I was at the Cal game, so we were all there too. Was my perception off? It just seemed that USC's defensive guys are just not big enough. Thoughts? What do you think about the size of USC's defense?
I think that's part of it, and that's been an issue with run defense, and I think you saw it especially without Bear Alexander. I do think that's a part of the problem for sure, especially on the interior of that defensive line.
Yeah, I think they're definitely small in some spots. Obviously, Stanley Tauafu and Tyrone Taleni aren't the biggest guys out there. I don't understand why Jack Sullivan doesn't get more run. He's a big guy. He's a Big Ten guy, but obviously he has not fallen into favor with the defensive staff, and they still want to play Tauafu and Stanley. No knock on them, but they are smaller guys, so they're more susceptible to getting kind of run blocked into big plays for whatever offense they're going against. So yeah, I think they're definitely bigger than last year, but they are still small in some spots.
Just want to thank everybody. I think we have like 400 people live on YouTube, and I don't think we have any Oklahoma fans in there right now. So that was the one.
Oh, I wonder why.
Yeah, and if there are any, first of all, thanks for watching. If you're not like spamming our chat, you're probably a sensible Oklahoma fan. That was a tough loss. Wishing you the best of luck going forward. But you have a great team. It's been 2 years. I would like focus on your team, and it's a great team. They got one loss there, so it's not too bad. We do have a call.
Oh.
Yeah, let's see. Caller, you are on Tunnel Vision. Can you hear me? And what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Mark from Arizona.
Hey,
How you
Mark.
guys doing tonight?
Good.
Hey, my question is, I've been a fan and a person that's been there for 60 years watching USC. I've been down there at the tunnel. I've been everything. And the thing that bothers me a little bit is the media thing with 30 minutes of practice. That's never been the norm at USC. Every coach that we've had has always wanted the media to be there because that's who markets our people. That's who markets swimming. That's who markets everything because they see USC on TV. They see it. They hear it on the radio. And I don't get that. The other part is the defensive coordinator. It's a problem. We know it. But the real big question I have is, do you think the AD is gonna? She's new, I know it, but do you think she's gonna come on board and say, "Hey, Lincoln, we need to discuss something"? I'd like you guys' thoughts.
Well, thanks
a lot,
for
and,
Well, thanks, Mark. Arizona, right?
thanks a lot. Ron.
All right. Well, thanks for calling in. Yeah, we would love to see the practices more open. Over the years, it kind of started with like the Cody Kessler kind of years. For whatever reason, he was never crushed in the media, but man, he he blocked a lot of us, and he's come back and apologized and everything. It's just like sort of the way he dealt with things. He didn't do the Eric Gentry delete Twitter. He like blocked a lot of people. Like, I don't know if I ever said anything bad about him on Twitter and I was blocked, and like Keeley was blocked. Like all these people were blocked. And it sort of changed a little bit. Usually the quarterbacks were on board. We could watch the summer workouts and everything. And that kind of changed then. The more embattled Clay Helton got, the more restrictive things got. And then sometimes we couldn't watch, and then we could watch portions. And Lincoln Riley was someone, coming from Oklahoma where media wasn't allowed to watch very much, or, so that's sort of kind of where that is coming from. This is the most restrictive it's been, but to be fair, like the whole college football is trending that way too. It's not just Lincoln Riley, I guess, but it's, we would love to be out there and be able to, because if we could say, hey, Eric Gentry's been just crushing it in practice and he didn't play in the Notre Dame game, then that's one thing. We used to be able to say stuff like that. I mean, we would tell you.
Sam Darnold's kind of.
Yeah, Sam Darnold's like on the
plays.
scout team, like crushing people. And you're like, oh, so he's probably going to be good when he gets in. But we can't do that kind of stuff really anymore.
It's a Lincoln Riley policy and doesn't help us do our jobs. People don't like to hear the media complain about media access. After I complained about how no players talked the other game, and that was funny. How about Lincoln Riley the other day? Oh, well, today we'll let you talk to players, kind of like giving us a reward. I don't know. That was kind of weird. He said that before leaving from his press conference. So here I am complaining after saying I didn't want to do that. But I wish practice was open too. It's definitely annoying.
Mark, I wish we got 30 minutes.
Yeah, we don't even. We get what, 10?
I get 8, a minute and 30 seconds probably. No, however long warm-ups are now, it's probably like less than 6 to 7 minutes. I'm gonna time it one day just to get the real effect of how long we get, because it's literally just the team warm-up. And they don't even let us finish the team warm-up. We're out before the even team warm-up ends. And bonus note, non-related to any of his questions, but Mark sounds super young. He said 60 years as like a fan.
Yeah.
I guess that means he's like 60 plus, but I thought it was like a 30-year-old man or something. So credit to your young-sounding voice, Mark.
Yes.
What was the second part?
I have it right here. I wrote it down because I would always forget.
I always do.
He asked, would Jen Cohen push Lincoln Riley to make a change? Everything I've heard is that she has guts and she will get in there and try to do something if she thinks that there's an issue with the football team. She hired Jimmy Lake, and then when it was apparent that he wasn't the man for the job, she fired him, even though he was her guy. I just think like she might be able to push, but who's really in charge? Is she in charge or is Lincoln Riley in charge? And if a change isn't made, I think we'll know who has the final say, at least right now. That could change in the future, but that's a fascinating part of it, I think, for the offseason.
Yeah, I would say Lincoln Riley's in charge of what's going on. Jen Cohen just got there. Do I think she's going to walk into Lincoln Riley's office? I mean, she knows what the temperature is. He does too. I don't think there's anything. She's not going to like go in there and say, you need to fire this guy. Like, I don't see that happening. I think she's someone that can make bold moves, but you just came into the situation, like literally she's weeks in, it's not that much, couple of months. It's just not a lot. And I think she's got to understand what everything that's going on. I know she's hearing from fans and she's an open person and you get it. I think it's all things that'll be discussed. But if you're thinking that there's going to be some moment that Jen Cohen's like, Lincoln, you need to come into my office, shut the door, and here's what we're going to do. I think Lincoln Riley's going to be on. I think he would be agreeable. Like if they don't win the Pac-12 championship this year, that you got to make some changes. So, but I wouldn't expect that it's like 2 months into the job, Jen Cohen's going to start pushing him around or something. I don't think that's the case. My opinion, but
we shall see.
Let's see. We got one from Dave Rice. Is Caleb dealing with a finger issue on his throwing hand? Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, he's dealing with a pinky. He says it doesn't bother him. I'm sure it bothers him a little more than he leads
he's still
on.
ripping the ball, Connor.
Yeah,
He's still ripping the ball.
Ripping the ball. On that fumble that he recovered, it looked like he hit it on one of the helmets of a Cal player. I think it's something worth monitoring, but obviously he's still able to play, and it's just more of a nuisance, is what Lincoln Riley said a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. This is another one from Beck. Besides the defensive coordinator change, any other changes you see that need to be made?
Well, are they referring to, I guess, just anything?
I think anything. I mean,
maybe a special teams coordinator.
I don't know if you necessarily need a special teams. You need more oversight of special teams. If it's a full-time, I don't care what it is, but you have to change however it's being run. Someone needs to be in charge of special teams. And if it's some low-level analyst that doesn't have the opportunity to tell a bunch of assistant coaches that are full-time what to do, then that's not the right way to do it. You need someone overseeing this whole thing, because it just looks like no one's running it's just going off. It's a runaway train, and just bad things happen over and over again. And you need someone at the top to say, this has to stop. And we're going to pull this guy from this practice period into this one because we need work on special teams. Something like that. Because I just don't, my guess, we don't get to watch. My guess is that's not happening right now.
So just make one of the, you talking about give someone double duty? Like an assistant coach? Like,
I think someone needs to be running it. And it's probably better to have it as a full-time assistant that maybe has other things. But if Lincoln Riley talked about, he's got guys that have special teams, experience. Well, instead of, Luke Heward, working with the punt return guys or whatever he's doing, and make him in charge of all of it. You run the whole thing. So you're telling these guys what to do when you're running these periods. Some oversight from someone that has actual authority, not an analyst. It would be my suggestion.
I think Jim Harbaugh's son Jay does that at Michigan. He's the safeties coach and the special teams coordinator. So he's the guy who is in charge and will answer for it if there's a special teams problem, whereas now Lincoln Riley answers for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look here, you're the second wide receivers coach. Let's add a little more to your plate.
I like it.
Let's give you the special teams.
It's funny. See him. He walks around the field before the game.
He does. I thought it was crazy. It was like Groundhog's Day. I was standing in the corner. He walked by me 3 times.
Yeah, he does laps or something. And it was funny from the press box. I saw somebody walking, and I just watched too much stuff, I guess. And I couldn't see who it was, but by his gait, I'm like, that's Luke Heward. And I put my binoculars up. Oh, it was. Yeah, I don't know. That's just his thing. He just walks around the field. We got one for you, Chris.
Oh, no.
S.E. Neal. Why does Chris have a Whataburger logo on his forehead? It does look kind of like that.
Are you going to give him the one shot?
Oh, yeah. Let me give you the one shot.
Okay.
Hold on.
Let me hold still. I didn't really get a close look at whatever design my real girlfriend put on my forehead, but I do like Whataburger, so I'm okay with it. I know a lot of California people probably won't be. I don't know why I said California like that. California won't like it, but that's just what it is. That's just what it is. If you're seeing Whataburger and the lines on my forehead, then so be it.
Nice.
So be it.
Well, great stuff, guys. Runs so much smoother without Jack. I can go off the rails. No, I'm just kidding. We miss Jack. He'll be back for we got a Thursday show, right?
Yep.
Who's doing that one? Probably you, me, and Jack.
I think so.
Connor, Ryan, and Jack will do that.
Shamrock Boys?
Shamrock Boys. It's reunion weekend. It is my 30th reunion for undergrad.
Woo!
At USC, which is crazy.
Give me the 0. The 30. Are we backwards?
Backwards, yeah. So there you go. Or you could just switch. Nice.
Too much effort on our part.
But I hope you guys can
Says the man dressed like a tiger.
go check it out. Yeah, so there are a bunch of events going on down there. So yeah, we'll do the show Thursday night, and it should be a fun weekend. I mean, who the heck knows? They're this close to beating Utah, and then they just beat Cal by this much. I mean, it'd be a different story if they were still undefeated in Pac-12 play, even not having played well. But this is a game, if you beat Washington by 1, just be happy with it. If it's 50-49 and USC wins this one just like Cal, that was a top 10 team, so you take it all day long. But we'll still hear all the complaints and stuff. But you get the win, you get the win. So we'll see. If USC does, now it's a whole different story. Because you could, go on the road and lose to Oregon, and then maybe beat UCLA and still be in the Pac-12 championship game. Depends, how things play out. So it should be a really interesting finish to the season. And I don't know. We'll see how it goes. You guys have any like final thoughts? Words of wisdom from Tony the Tiger?
Legally, we're not Tony the Tiger.
Okay.
I don't have any like overarching. I did want a quick shout out to long snapper Jack Casasante because he deserves some credit for forcing that fumble as well. He was first on the scene, stopped the guy's momentum, kind of whips him around and disorients him, and then Tackett Curtis comes and punches loose. So just need to get the long snapper some love.
Yeah.
And he's always kind of first down there in those punt returns. You know, he's doing his job, getting down there and causing some havoc, and he did. So I just wanted to give him a little love. I have a great shot of it in my field level highlights where he's in there. You can see clearly that, you know, he is contributing to helping that huge fumble come into play. Teamwork makes the dream work. So shout out to him.
On that theme, Taj Washington took some big hits, got up every time. What a special player he is.
Also, we did not hype up Marshawn Lloyd enough. Big game for him.
Yeah.
He was huge, yeah.
Just having that game, you know, I know he had a 100-yard game early in the year, but this is kind of the one where he kind of took over, you know, 72 yards receiving, 115 on the ground, 2 touchdowns, just coming back off that performance against Utah where he fumbled, critical fumble, and just, put the team on his back sometimes and, you know, kept cranking away with that run game and busted that big one to set up I believe that one set up the game winner or the game tying, but either way, just a huge night for number 0.
We had a lot of people like guaranteeing USC is going to finish 6-6, like after the Utah loss. Now we have a bunch of people saying they think they're going to beat Washington. So that's good. At least trending in the right direction. And we have one last super chat.
Is it James?
No, Mr. Andrew.
Okay.
I believe Bear made a difference in the second half. He was suspended in the first half because of the targeting. He did. You are correct.
Massive difference.
I'm just a little old tiger, but yeah, those bears get it done. Lions, tigers, and bears.
Yeah.
And a giraffe helped out in that one.
That is true. And then I'll put this last one up. Paul says, I can't disagree, Utah loss is unforgivable.
Yep.
You're right.
Great comment, because it's true.
It is true. That was a game you just cannot lose, and they did. But you know what? There's still more games. So you have to move on at some point. I told Oklahoma fans to kind of move on. You have to move on. You still have an amazing opportunity because you're playing great teams. That was a game that shouldn't have lost. The USC shouldn't have lost, and they did. You have to answer for that. And I think that's part of the reason why you're going to see a change, you know, some changes at the end, if, you know, especially if, for sure, if they don't win the Pac-12 championship game, just in my opinion. But thank you for that one. And thanks. We had one more from Kevin. We had another super chat. People just getting in their last super chats. Oh, wait, that was the wrong one. Let me pull it up. He says, a 7-Eleven cashier can throw for 100 yards against USC.
I think it was Lowe's, but
it didn't pull up again. I'm sorry.
The funniest peristyle thread that I've seen in a while, when USC had let up those 2 long touchdown runs, the header was, "Where did the protesters go?" And then in the body, "We need them. They could stop Cal right now."
They did slow down the scoring.
If whoever wrote that is listening, thank you. That made me really chuckle.
All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. I know we had a whole bunch of people on YouTube. I'm sure other people on Facebook and Twitter as well. So thanks so much for tuning into our little show. We will be back Sunday night. Shotgun will be in town. So Shotgun will be doing Tunnel Vision. I'm not sure what the lineup will be. We'll figure it out. We'll do
Not
whatever.
me.
You're out. Yeah, Connor's out. So it'll probably be me, Shotgun, and Jack for that one. But we love getting Chris. Do you want to pose for the screenshot? Like, what would you like to do?
How about
the one shot?
You're just doing me as the
you should
soul.
probably be this. Yeah.
It's not going to be a 3-man. It's just going to be.
No, I think it's just you because
I don't deserve to be in.
That's really good. I think that's our screenshot right there.
Can I do one of mauling Connor?
Yeah, you want to do that? All right, we'll pick one. It's harder when you're moving though because you have to pose for the screenshot.
Take 3.
Perfect. I love that. If you're listening on the podcast version, sorry, but that's just what we're doing. That's going to wrap things up. We got Triple Double. We got Helium Boy, Cilantro Boy, and me, your little old host.
Boss man.
Hope boss man.
Boss man, boss boy, boss boy.
Boss boy. Hope you guys all enjoyed the show, and we will talk to you next time. Bye, everybody.